The Panthers have won 3 in a row for the first time in 4 years, setting up a massive home game against Buffalo on Sunday. But the status of Bryce Young is up in the air. Some reports saying that he's out this week, and Dave Canales, Panthers head coach, saying they're taking it day to day. We'll talk about that right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We are back in here on a Tuesday, and every single Tuesday throughout the entirety of the regular season, we review the 3 keys of victory that I give you on the previous Friday. The good, the bad, and the ugly is also back on today's show, and typically we start off the show by going over the good, the bad, and the ugly from the Panthers' 13-6 win. And boy, was it ugly the way the game played out, except for, of course, the result being a positive, as the Panthers have now won 3 straight games. First time since weeks 1, 2, and 3 of the 2021 season 4 years ago, where they were able to win 3 consecutive games. And now sitting here above 500 in October for the last time since 4 years ago, back in 2021 in October. But the story heading into this game on Sunday against Buffalo will be the status of the Panthers' third-year quarterback, Bryce Young, who exited that game on Sunday in New York late in the third quarter with an ankle injury. He was able to walk without any assistance into the locker room there at MetLife Stadium, had x-rays. Those came back negative, had an MRI, I assume, on Monday. We don't have the details of those from at least the Panthers at this point in time. But Bryce Young, his status is up in the air as Panthers face off against a Bills team coming off a bye and sitting at 4-2 so far through the first 7 weeks of this season. So first saw the reporting from Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network as far as it pertains to Bryce Young. Tom Pelissero is saying this: Panthers quarterback Bryce Young suffered a high ankle sprain on Sunday, an MRI revealed, and he's expected to miss this week's game against the Bills. Per sources, Andy Dalton is now in line to start against Buffalo and quite possibly beyond. He goes on to say in another tweet, the exact timetable for Bryce Young is TBD. This type of high ankle sprain is generally 2 to 4 week injury, though Carolina is hopeful he could miss as little as 1 game. For now, the rising Panthers turn to their veteran backup, Andy Dalton. So that came out on Monday morning. Fast forward to Monday afternoon at 1:20 p.m. Eastern time, as we're there inside Bank of America Stadium, meeting with Dave Canales after he reviewed the film of the game on Sunday. He said that they're going to take it day to day with Bryce and his ankle, and they'll try to get him out there on the practice field on Wednesday. He did not want to specify what the diagnosis was with the ankle. All he said is that it's a right ankle injury. They're going to take it day to day. And he did acknowledge that there were reports out there, like the one from Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show, saying that Bryce is not going to play on Sunday. Dave acknowledged those. Said, yes, I see that that's out there, but again, we're going to take it day to day. Wouldn't confirm that's a high ankle sprain. He said there's a possibility that Bryce potentially could be out a few weeks. When asked about, hey, Dave, JT Sanders, he suffered a high ankle sprain against Atlanta in week 3. He missed 3 games, came back on Sunday against New York. Could it be a situation like that? And he said there's a possibility. But again, we're going to take it day to day. He was asked about the MetLife turf up there, as there's been a lot of concern throughout the league. The players have voted every year in the NFLPA. That's the worst stadium as far as turf goes. They have voted that they do not want field turf at all in stadiums, and owners like the ones up there in New York and the one here in Carolina do not give a damn, and they're going to continue to put field turf up there because they don't care about the players' safety, even though it be the best interest for them if their players aren't getting hurt on some BS surface like the one up there at MetLife and here in Carolina. And there's that. So it was not the MetLife turf. It was more of Bryce getting stepped on in that game that led to that injury. And it's a possibility that they would look for someone else to back up Andy Dalton and not be Hendon Hooker, who's only been here for 7 weeks' time. And they may not feel comfortable at this point in time to have him there up on game day as the primary backup to Andy Dalton. So we'll find out that. But as far as Dave Canales is concerned and what he wants to reveal to us, Bryce Young is day-to-day. And they'll find out on Wednesday whether he can practice, and maybe they'll wait until Friday once game designations come out to let us know whether he's going to play or not. So it's funny that this is happening because Schefter, Pelissero, Rappaport aren't putting out the report that Bryce Young is going to miss this week and potentially more if it wasn't true. This clearly came from somebody inside the building or connected to Bryce Young. So Bryce is not going to play on Sunday. We're going to do this whole dog and pony show again on Wednesday, and it makes sense for Dave to not go out there and say directly that Bryce is not going to play because it does not benefit Carolina to come out on Monday, 2 days prior to the injury report, having it come out for week 8 against Buffalo this Sunday. It makes there's no sense for them to do it. Now you could say, oh, well, when Robert Hunt and Austin Corbett were hurt, they came out and said it directly. Well, yeah, because those guys are going on IR. And when it's been injury reserve, he's had no problem letting us know that, oh, yeah, that guy's going to be out. Now, we've had to ask. He hasn't just come out blatantly and said it. We've asked straight up, just like today. I mean, Vastai heard of Carolina Blitz, so asked him as directly as possible. So, Dave, you're not ruling Bryce out of the game. He didn't even say no, that he's not doing that. Just said, we're going to take it day to day. Didn't want to say it's a high ankle sprain. We'll see if he can practice on Wednesday. All of that. So the gamesmanship, it's a little bit exhausting, but maybe Dave Canales is becoming more of a head coach every single day because he refuses to answer those simple questions of, is your quarterback going to play? Because the most trusted reporters in the league are saying he's not going to play. And we know that he's not going to play. So do you want to tell us and thereby also tell Buffalo he's not going to play? Certainly the Bills are going to prepare for Bryce Young. And they'll prepare for Andy Dalton. That'll make things a little bit more complicated for them. And I put that in quotes. I don't think it's going to make it complicated for them at all. Because here's the case with the game on Sunday. I didn't really care whether it was Andy or Bryce playing in this game. The Panthers are going to beat Buffalo with their ability to run the football. The Bills are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. Right now, ahead of Monday Night Football, they are fifth. They're last. Fifth worst in the NFL in run defense. They are last in yards per rush allowed. They're second worst in defensive total rush EPA per True Media. They're fourth worst in defensive rushing success rate, and they've allowed the third most rushing touchdowns this season defensively. Their run defense is bad. Terrible. We saw it on Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago against Atlanta and Bijan Robinson. They can't stop the run. Week 1 on Sunday Night Football against the Ravens, again, that they still won. They could not stop the run. Looking at the Panthers so far, they're second in the NFL in rushing, 8th in yards per attempt, 3rd in EPA per rush, 2nd in total rush EPA offensively, and 5th in rushing success rate. The Panthers have a distinct advantage up front with the run game against Buffalo. We'll find out more about Damian Lewis. Dave Canales did say on Monday that they're hopeful that he'll be ready to go. If he's not, Austin Corbett will be back there again at left guard. Either way, the way that they run the ball in recent weeks, and certainly there was a little bit of lack of rhythm there. I felt like in a run game on Sunday as Chuba Hubbard came back and he split series with Rico Dowdle. The Panthers are going to win this game on Sunday based off what they do on the ground, not what they do through the air. And it's not like they're killing it in the passing game to begin with. Not like Bryce Young's going out there and slinging it for 300 yards every single week. He's not even throwing for over 200 yards any of these wins the last 3 weeks. And Andy Dalton came in, made a nice play at the end at XL. That's awesome. And maybe we'll see more of Xavier getting the ball because when Andy's played, XL has been more of a target, and Bryce certainly leaned this season on T-Mac. We'll see how that plays out. But running the ball, that's the key to winning on Sunday. And we'll talk more about that throughout the week. We have the crossover with Joe Marino of Locked On Bills on Thursday. Of course, on Friday, we have our 3 keys of victory, and running the ball will be one of those keys, certainly for the game on Sunday. So, yeah, it matters whether it's Bryce or whether it's Andy. But the way I'm looking at this is the Bills can't stop the run. You're one of the best run teams in the league. Go run the damn ball. That's the focus, and we'll figure out whether Bryce will be able to go next week on the road at Lambeau, or if he's going to be back in a couple weeks' time against Orleans. So that certainly will matter moving forward, but does not appear to be something significant. Could be 1 week, could be 2, could be 3, couldn't be 0 at all, depending on whether you want to believe Dave Canales and it being day-to-day. We'll find out more on Wednesday, but yeah, I don't think Pelissero, I don't think Schefter, and I don't think Rappaport are out here telling you that Bryce Young's not going to play just for Bryce Young to actually play on Sunday. And if he does, great. But I don't expect that to be the case. So there is all of that. On Tuesdays, rather, we go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the Panthers, they certainly had an ugly, gritty win, but all that matters is it was a win. We'll take a look back at the good, the bad, and the ugly from their 13-6 gross win up there in New Jersey, technically, against the New York Jets.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail. From the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From the smooth handling to intuitive controls, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Back here on Locked On Panthers. Panthers got an ugly, gritty win on Sunday there at MetLife Stadium, defeating the still winless New York Jets by the score of 13-6. Was in the locker room on Monday afternoon. We had a little scrum there with Nick Scott, the Panthers starting safety. I asked him, do you like winning in this manner, winning an ugly kind of game? And he says, the defensive guy, of course, want to win 13-6. We'll win 48-44. All that matters is that we win, but of course, love to win in that manner, and the defense was really good. So starting off, of course, with the good, Derrick Brown leading the way, had a 85.8 PFF grade on Sunday, had 4 pressures, 2 sacks on the day. And if you look at just his PFF grade so far this season, an 87.1 overall grade, that's the 5th best among interior defensive linemen, a 77.6 pass rushing grade, 13th among interior defensive linemen, 81.0 run defense grade at 7th best among interior defensive linemen. He has been a top 5 defensive lineman through the first 7 weeks of the season. And you can see just how badly Carolina missed him last year. We knew it in the moment, but when you see him back out there and being as disruptive as he was on Sunday against the Jets, and has been the previous 6 weeks as well, you remember, oh, wow, damn, Derrick Brown is one hell of a player, and it's hard to be good up front when you don't have a guy like that guy right there in the middle. So DB killed it once again, led the way, and it wasn't just Derrick Brown, it was also Jaycee Horn, and your best players have to be your best players. And defensively on Sunday, that was the case. And really, most Sundays, that's been the case so far this season, that Derrick's done his job and that JC's done his job. Now, with PFF, their grades, sometimes I agree with them, like with Derrick Brown, because very obviously he was a stud on Sunday. Other times I don't agree with them, like last week when looking at Jaycee Horn, where they had him as the 3rd lowest graded defender for the Panthers when he gave up 1 play. And other than that, he went out there on that final drive and told Ajero, hey, enough of this zone stuff, buddy. I'm going to cover whatever his face. George Pickens. I'm going to cover George Pickens, and he didn't get anything there. So that's more fuel to the fire where you're all like, he's got to cover the top corner. That's just not what they do here. You're going to have to get over it. You don't have to get over it. You're just going to have to maybe accept it, try to just understand. But I understand how people feel. But he played well, I thought. And they gave him a really low grade. Looking at this week, another good was just the cornerbacks bouncing back. That really being Mike Jackson, but Jaycee went out there and showed you why he's one of the top paid players at his position. He had an 84.9 PFF grade. That was the second highest among defenders on Sunday, an 86.5 coverage grade. 2 interceptions, both just spectacular in that game. He allowed 3 receptions on 6 targets for 41 yards, a 32.6 passer rating when targeted on Sunday. But Mike Jack, need to give him his flowers as well. He bounced back really after a tough week when he was primarily up against George Pickens, giving up a touchdown and some other big plays in that one against Dallas. He had an 80.8 PFF grade, an 86.2 coverage grade, had 2 pass breakups, allowed 3 receptions on 8 targets for 21 yards and a 45.8 passer rating on Sunday. So really strong game for not just Jaycee Horn, who of course was outstanding, but also for his counterpart, Mike Jackson. Had plenty of people in my DMs last week being like, should the Panthers trade for a corner? Y'all, they just paid Mike this offseason to be in the role that he's in. They're not going to bail on that 6 weeks into the season when he's healthy and when it was just one bad game. I get it. You want your team to be good. You want them to always maximize the roster. And you hear that talk from Dave and from Dan about they're always trying to find competition, make the roster better. But realistically, come on. They didn't go out here and pay Mike Jackson to bail on him as a starter 6-7 weeks into the season. So good for him to go out there, play well, and maybe quiet at some people for a week. But of course, going to have to go back out there and do it again on Sunday against Buffalo. Overall, the defensive dominance was also a good, based off of success rate. It was the best defensive performance for the Panthers defense since December 21st of 2014. So in over a decade. In a 17-13 when they had against Cleveland that day, they had an 80.9 success rate that afternoon. On Sunday versus the Jets, they had a 76.2% success rate in that 2014 win against Cleveland, which I actually was in attendance for. That was a game where I think Luke Kuechly knocked the hell out of Johnny Manziel. And Derrick Anderson was starting. The news stations were asking Panther fans, oh, hey, what do you think about the quarterback situation? And there were some buffoons out there being like, yeah, we want Derrick Anderson to be the starter over Cam Newton. Those people right there deserve every single bit of the quarterback circus that's been going on here over the last couple of years. They deserve every single bad day of quarterback play for having that opinion that Derrick Anderson should be out there instead of Cam Newton. Just complete idiocy. Just an asinine statement to make, but that was the last time the Panthers had a success rate as high as the one they had on Sunday in that game against the Jets. The shutout of the Lions back in 2020, that was at 75% success rate. That was the next best since that 2014 result against the Browns. And even the game against Atlanta, the shutout there was not nearly that high when looking at success rate. So a dominant defensive performance against what is really a horrible offense in New York, and the Panthers made them look like that. Xavier Legette had his best day as a Panther on Sunday. Career high 9 receptions, career high 92 yards, go along with a touchdown on Sunday. He had a .34 EPA per target. It's the best so far this season, which not really surprising there. But you look at his EPA on target, had a 3.7 EPA on target, the second best of his career. Now, EPA per target measures a player's efficiency based on how many expected points they add each time they are thrown to, while EPA on target refers to the total or average EPA players responsible for on plays where the pass is thrown their way. So had the second best EPA on target of his career on Sunday, and looking at it, had a career best 76.6 PFF grade in that win. So that's the good. The bad, the one thing I do want to point out is the rhythm on offense. Outside of XL, the offense kind of stunk on Sunday. I think Rico, he played well, but outside of XL and Rico, they didn't really have a lot of rhythm. They had a 34.2 success rate on Sunday. That's the lowest so far this season. That comes a week after posting this best of the season and one of the best in the NFL here in 2025. Their EPA, they had a negative 9.89 EPA. That is only better than week 1 at Jacksonville. And when you look at Rico and you look at Chuba and the whole running back rotation that Dave Canales and the Panthers utilized offensively on Sunday, Rico ended up having an EPA per rush of 0.03. It was 0.38 and 0.26 versus Miami and Dallas. So pretty steep drop off there. And in his rushing success rate was 29.4 after being 47.8 against Miami and 66.7 against Dallas. And just combine those 2 weeks, it was 58.5. So that's also a pretty steep drop. Looking at Chuba in his first game back after missing 2 games of a calf injury, had a 35.7 success rate and in a negative 0.19 EPA per rush. So Rico was clearly the better back in the game on Sunday. And Dave was asked about this on Monday and said that, it was great to be able to call the game the way that he wanted to call it, and knowing that he didn't have to overthink who was out there, because one series was Chuba, the other series was Rico, and he anticipates them having the same rotation and did want to remind people that it was Chuba's first game back. So for people out there who maybe be freaking out about it, being like, Rico's got to be the guy, you can't give Chuba the ball. And guys, they're paying him $33 million over the next 4 years. They just extended him last November. Hasn't even been a calendar year. And y'all know how I feel about paying running backs, but damn, what did you think they were going to do? Not play him? Come on. So just be happy that you have 2 good backs. You got to get Chuba into a rhythm. It's going to happen with just him getting more time out there, time on task, something that Dave says a lot. The more games he plays, the more comfortable he'll get, and the better he'll play. Rico looked good. Certainly could have been better had he had more carries, more touches, but that's just not the reality of the situation right now. Could that change? Certainly it could change, but right now they're trying to reincorporate Chuba into the offense, and it's not just Chuba. Joe and Coker's got to get reincorporated. JT Sanders, who played on Sunday as well. They got Jimmy Horn, who's taken a step forward, and he just, so you're clear, we're all clear here. People were asking who's going to be the guy who's up there as fifth wide receiver. Will it be Jimmy Horn or will it be Hunter Renfrow? Hunter Renfrow probably ain't going to play anymore unless someone gets injured, because he just, outside of that second half against Arizona, hasn't really added anything. Didn't really look that comfortable returning punts. Trevor Etienne had his best day as a returner so far in his career here in Carolina on Sunday in that win against the Jets, setting up 2 scoring drives leading to 10 points with his returns. I don't think Hunter's going to be out there unless there's a receiver who goes down. And it is what it is. He was great at the beginning of camp and then came back, didn't do anything. Dave cut him. You see why Dave cut him. Had a nice afternoon there against Arizona. Great for that comeback story, but it's going to mainly be him now just practicing and likely not being active unless there's an injury, which makes a lot of sense. Bryson Tremaine, probably their best special teams guy at wide receiver. We'll see when David Moore's healthy, how things play out. I have a hard time believing Hunter would be above him if there's going to be 6 guys at receiver active on game day. So that's how things are playing out at this point in time. But the rhythm of offense, not great. And then the ugly, the second half offense, that goes along with the rhythm. They had a 21.1 success rate offensively, the lowest of the season. In the second half, had a minus 6.86 total offensive EPA, also a season low, and in a minus 0.19 EPA per play. Second half drives were field goal, punt, and then the end of game. It was gross to watch. Not an entertaining game at all, other than, of course, for Panther fans, you love the result at the end of the day, which is what matters most. But watching it as someone who covers the team, and just a general observer of football in general, don't ever want to watch that again. But if they win, you'll take it. But certainly some concerns offensively and things that they'll have to tighten up if they want to win on Sunday against Buffalo and then next Sunday against the Packers. And they still have the Niners, the Rams, the Bucks twice, Seattle on the schedule. Can't play the way they played, even against a bad team against Jets, and continue to win games like they did on Sunday. But either way, they get the win 13-6. They are now 4-3. Huge game on Sunday against Buffalo. So those are the good, the bad, and the ugly from the win against the Jets. On Fridays, throughout the offseason or throughout the regular season, I give you my 3 keys victory. Then here on Tuesdays, we review how the Panthers did with those keys. We'll do that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Back here on Locked On Panthers, again, every single Friday throughout the regular season, except for, of course, the bye week, I give you my 3 keys to victory. Then the following Tuesday, like today, I go over how the Panthers did with those keys. Key number 1 was to continue success on the ground. The Panthers had 36 carries for 125 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. Rico Dowdle led the way with 17 carries, 79 yards, 4.6 yards per carry. Chuba Hubbard in his return after missing 2 games with a calf injury, 14 carries, 31 yards, 2.2 per carry. Looking at those guys combined, 31 carries for 110 yards. Now, the rushing success rate wasn't great, 34.4. That's the second lowest of the season, and that comes after a 68.6 in the win against Dallas and a 44.8 the week prior to that in the win against Miami. They had a negative 3.3 total rush EPA. That's the worst of the season. Miami and Dallas are the best total rush EPA games that they had. Now they're facing, again, like I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, a truly awful run defense so far this season up there in Buffalo on Sunday. So they should be able to get back to the ways that they played when Rico was toting the rock. And I think with Chuba getting a week under his belt, getting more comfortable back there, Dave understanding more about what the running back split's going to look like, and he's going to continue to do the way he did it on Sunday, I do think that's going to end up being a positive pairing. I know there's some angst right now. Just take a deep breath. Please, I beg you, relax. It's going to be fine. But yeah, continued success on the ground wasn't nearly as successful as it was in the previous 2 weeks, but still, you got a good game out of Rico, and you got Chuba back out there, and both of them are healthy heading into this upcoming week. Key number 2, get pressure on Justin Fields. I asked on Friday, if not this week, then when it comes to the Panthers, being able to get pressure and get the quarterback down on the ground. The Panthers more than doubled their season sack total from 5 to 11, thanks to 6 sacks on Sunday, and everybody was involved. Derrick Brown had 2. Prince Umayyalon had a half a sack. Nick Gordon had a sack and a half. You had A'Shawn Robinson getting in on the action. Trevon Moehrig also in there as well. Or Merrick rather, they all were able to get some pressure and be able to get the guy in the ground. And now the Panthers sacked the Jets on 15% of their dropbacks on Sunday. And the PFF pressure percentage actually wasn't that great. They had a 34.1%. The Jets entered the game allowing 51.1%, which is just horrible. But the 34.1% was actually the second best of the season for Carolina, behind the loss in Arizona. And Boogie Basham, go ahead and tip of the cap to him. He was elevated from the practice squad on Sunday. He had a 77.7 PFF grade and 2 total pressures. That was the 3rd best PFF grade defensively on Sunday. So good to see a guy step up in that role from the practice squad. Finally, number 3 was to win the turnover margin. Going to the game, I felt that the only way the Jets could win as if the Panthers turned the ball over, and the Panthers were successful in not turning the ball over. Now, Dave Canales, the way that he looks at things, he will view the turnover on downs, which I would put on him and his play calling, to be a turnover, and that did lead to 3 points for New York in a short field. And the Jets, they also had a turnover on downs in their own right, so it equals out as far as that goes, but they did not have any egregious turnovers, nothing that allowed New York to really be in a position to score touchdowns, which they struggle mightily at, as we all saw on Sunday. So overall, we're looking at the keys of victory. They got pressure on the quarterback. They didn't lose the turnover margin, and they weren't as successful, but they weren't downright awful either when it came to running the ball on Sunday in that win against the Jets. Panthers, again, now 4-3, with a big game on Sunday against the 4-2 Buffalo Bills. But that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe or follow the show for free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, because tomorrow is Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, I answer weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. So all you got to do is at me or DM me to get those questions into me right now. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding, and I will talk to y'all on Wednesday.